Alright, what's good, y'all? It's been a little minute. Today I got for y'all, I'm going to be tier ranking NBA teams based off how I feel their offseason went so far. There's still a lot of time left in the NBA offseason with the season not starting until October. But based on the moves that happened leading up to Summer League with free agency and some trades in the draft, I'm going to be ranking those teams. But first, I want to talk about this. So right here we have the official New Wave Discord. For anybody that wants to play college football, we have that. We're going to have a music. Ooh, I didn't mean to join it. We're going to have all kinds of stuff. We're going to have just basically if you want to do content, if you just want to chill out, have a community, that's basically what we're going to have this for. But right now we're trying to get a college football dynasty going on. We did this last year. So if anybody wants to join, make sure you hit me either on Instagram or you can comment down below and I will get back to you. But let's get into it. First team up, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. Now the Milwaukee Bucks did a little bit of a weird thing with them. First off, signing Miles Turner, but in order to sign Miles Turner, they had to release Damian Lillard and stretch his contract over 5 years. I'm pretty sure it's $22.5 million over the next 5 years. So he's completely off the team. Other than that, they re-signed some guys. I'm pretty sure they re-signed Gary Trent Jr., re-signed Ryan Rollins. So overall, it does make their team better because, I understand it. With Damian Lillard's injury, he's probably going to miss the entirety of the season, and you really don't know how he's going to come back. But with the roster they got right now, it just looks sucky. But since they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, they can still compete in the East. I think with that, though, I'm going to give it a C. Yeah, I'm going to put them in C. Next, we have the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I was really excited for the Nets offseason purely because they had 5 first-round picks. I expected them to make some moves. They made a couple trades before and after the draft, but they didn't make any during the draft that really involved any of their first-round picks. But they were involved in the Kristaps Porzingis trade, and they got a first-round pick off of that. I'm pretty sure they got pick 23 or 22 off of that, one of them. So that's how they ended up with 5 first-round picks. But all in all, I wanted them to really trade some of their picks. I didn't want them to draft all 5 players. And they ended up doing that, drafting Jaeger Dimon in the lottery, Nolan Traore, Drake Powell, Ben Serif, and Danny Wolf, all in the first round. And what really bothered me about that is the fact that most of those guys are guards outside of Danny Wolf, who I guess you can say is a point guard. And I don't really see how that's going to fit together. It's a lot of overlapping talent, and it's a lot of point guards that can't necessarily shoot and move without the ball in their hands outside of maybe Jaeger Dimon and definitely Drake Powell. So I'm a little bit curious on how that's going to work. But they also made a trade for Michael Porter Jr., giving up Cam Johnson, and they also got a 2032 first-round pick unprotected from the Nuggets in that trade, and that alone I feel is a good move because who knows what's going to happen in 2032, that's 7 years from now. And to get that from the Nuggets is beautiful, in my opinion. So although the moves they made during and pre-draft were a little weird, I don't think it was as bad as the Bucks, and they objectively did get worse. And I think that's what they wanted because they own their pick next season. But I would have liked to see a little bit more. I want to see them get a little bit more future capital, so I can't put it above B. Maybe I'll move it a little bit later. But for now, we're going to put that at B. Next, we have their cousin, the New York Knicks. Now, I can't really think of anything the Knicks really did. Oh, I'm sorry. They fired Tom Thibodeau and hired Mike Brown. I like that because that's going to improve the offense dramatically without necessarily dropping the defense, in my opinion. They also re-signed Gershon Yabusele. So for that alone, I give it an A. I don't really remember who they drafted. No, I think they got Kobe Sanders. So I'll put that in B, actually. A is a little high. Toronto, I'm putting put this in C. We paid Jakob Poeltl. I'm going to count our trade deadline moves because we paid Emmanuel quickly and we paid Brandon Ingram before he played a single minute of basketball for us. And I understand the move because Toronto isn't necessarily a free agent destination. So it's hard to lure players there since it's out the country. And with that being said, I understand trying to lock in your players before they even test the open market, so I get it. But overall, there's just some moves that I would have liked them to make. Like I don't know how I feel about the Colin Murray Boyles pick at pick 9. It just feels a little weird, and it feels like overlapping skill sets once again. I like to say a lot of our lineup is overlapping skill sets. We gave Jakob Poeltl a lot of money. Like our starting lineup is very expensive for a team that is not necessarily a contender. But as long as I can remember, this team has never really tried to tank for multiple years at once. And I assume this is just to keep them competitive and they're happy with that. But also with them paying guys so much, I guess you can really keep us in like the markets for those big fishes if they ever become disgruntled with their team. That's how we ended up with Kawhi Leonard. And with those contracts, it's going to be very easy to match contracts for a trade. So I'll give it a C. I just wish we would have drafted Kamal Maliwatch or Noah Sengay, I guess, if we were going to go wing. But Colin Murray is really good. He's really good. Like I said, he was the best defender in the draft to me. And he's really good at getting to the rim. I don't really buy into the shot just yet. I have to see more. I haven't seen him play in Summer League just yet. But overall, I can't really hate on it too much, but I also don't really like it too much. Next, we have the Jazz. They traded Jordan Clarkson for a couple second-round picks, I'm pretty sure. They traded John Collins for I don't know if they got a first in that or a second, but I'm assuming it's a second. They traded him. And they also drafted Ace Bailey with pick 5. That's all off the top of my head. Their goal is to be objectively worse. Like when they traded John Collins, they legitimately said that it was to get worse because he brought them too many wins. And with the draft class next year, I can understand that. I'm going to give them a B. Can't really say too much more about it. Just really simple. They're trying to bottom out once again. And if Ace Bailey hits, he hits. I understand the value of taking that, even though he didn't want to be there. The Rockets are going to be my first S-tier team, though. They've been flawless. First, they re-signed Steven Adams before he can hit the open market. Then they traded for Kevin Durant on the Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And they didn't really give up much. All they gave up was Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, and pick 10. They didn't give up much future capital. Nobody that they really held on too much. So I really like that. And then they also had enough money to bring in Clint Capella and Dorian Finney-Smith. This is my favorite roster around Kevin Durant that isn't necessarily filled with superstars, because obviously his best roster would be the Golden State Warriors of 2017 to 2018. But I really can't complain about anything else they did. And they also brought back their guys on minimum contracts like Tari Eason and like Jeff Green. Sorry, not Tari Eason. Jay Shante and Jeff Green. And then something I want to commend them for, they traded Cam Whitmore for 2 second-round picks to a destination that would help on his development. So I just want to tip my caps to them. And now we have the Pelicans. This was a confusing team. First, they traded pick, I want to say 13. No, they traded up to pick 13 to get Derek Queen. That would be okay. But they gave up an unprotected pick next year when I don't think this team is going to be in the playoffs. I don't even think they're going to be in the play-in with the Western Conference being so loaded. They just done some questionable things. They also traded Indiana back their pick from this current draft in order for Indiana to have more tradable picks. I just don't like what Joe Dumars is doing over there. They also traded for Jordan Poole and then drafted Jeremiah Fears. They traded CJ McCollum to the Wizards. It's just not a lot of good moves. I'm going to put them in D. This is just a team that I can't really say has gotten better. But they've... Okay, how do I put this? They're a team that looks like they're trying to compete when I don't think they should. I think they're really betting on Zion being healthy, it feels like. And I don't really like that. I'm giving the Lakers an F purely because they tried to lowball Dorian Finney-Smith, and then in the process of doing that, they were going around to other teams. Specifically, Rob Pelinka was going around to other teams saying that he had a knee injury when he didn't, and then Dorian Finney-Smith found out about it, and that's what made him go to a different team, and that team happened to be another Western Conference contender, two of the teams that finished above them this season. So after that alone, even though I do like the Dude Thiero pick out of Arkansas, he was one of my guys. He's a really good defender, really good finisher, and super athletic. He will fit, and this team needed wings, so I like that. They also brought in DeAndre Ayton on a 2-year deal, $6 million. I think it was like $6 million. I don't really know how he'll fit with Luka. Just because he lacks motor, and he isn't really necessarily the lob threat or the physical dirty work guy that fits with Luka. And he also isn't the best defender to really clean up on the possessions, because that's really what this team lacks. They really lack defense. And that's why I like the Dude Thiero pick, because he was objectively defense. But if I'm being realistic, I give it a D. It's not really F. This team gets an F because they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything at all. The Chicago Bulls are the most confusing team there is. The only positive thing I can say about the Bulls right now is that they drafted one of my guys. They drafted one of my favorite players in this draft, but I can't say I'm confident in the team that he's going to, because they haven't been able to develop players in the past. I just think about recently, they weren't able to develop Lauri Markkanen. They weren't able to develop Patrick Williams. Kobe White was a hit for them, you can say. They weren't able to develop Wendell Carter. A lot of these guys that they drafted and they were lucky to draft have not been hits for them. And they got lucky with Kobe White. They got lucky with Matas Buzelis, who are on the team currently. But I can't really go to bat for them. And then after that, they also just misusing assets. They traded out of the second round for some reason in this draft. And then they haven't traded Vucevic. If they haven't traded Kobe White, like I've been seeing but I've been seeing people say as soon as Desmond Bane was available, they should have was traded. They should have put up Kobe White for availability immediately. Not even a thought about it, because he should have been an asset that should have been moved. We can say they brought back Trey Jones, so that was good. But I will give them credit. They haven't paid Josh Giddey just yet. And I'm going to make a whole separate, maybe short about this. But restricted free agency hasn't really been popping as much as everybody expected. We talked about the Nets earlier. They haven't paid Cam Thomas either. So I like how teams are really holding out and being smarter with their money and not just offering these guys $30 million just cause. I like how the Bulls are being patient and letting Giddey test his market, and then they'll match it. So I can't give the Bulls credit for that. But other than that, F. I don't like it. Timberwolves, I put them in B. They re-signed Naz Reid. They lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker, unfortunately. But they drafted Yohan Berenger. For anyone that doesn't know, he is a super athletic shot blocking center from France, super young. And in my opinion, he is an amazing fit with them. Because not only is he a switchable defender in drop coverage, he is a drop coverage bitch primarily, but he has the ability to switch, and he is one of the best shot blockers I've seen at his age. He had a summer league game today where he had 5 blocks in the first half. I haven't watched the second half of it just yet, but I am completely bought in on his talent. They also re-signed Julius Randle. I kind of expected that. They did give him a bit much. I think it was like a 3-year deal. I can't remember the exact amount, but it leaves him open for a trade maybe in the future. So I give them a B. Nothing. They've done good. The only bad thing really was that they lost out on Nickeil Alexander-Walker, which was expected. The Blazers. I'll give them a B as well. They acquired Drew Holiday. They also drafted Hanson Yang in the first round. When the Hanson Yang pick happened, I was a little scared. Then I really did my research, and I see the vision on why they drafted him. At worst, he's an elite rim protector with a shot. But I see the ceiling there. They got rid of DeAndre Ayton finally. They got rid of Anthony Simons finally, so that opens up a lot of room for their guards. I'm hoping they move on from Drew Holiday pretty soon because he doesn't want to be there, and I don't exactly know what he really brings to this team ceiling-wise, because I feel like their ceiling is like the play-in. Maybe they sneak in to the playoffs, but this is a play-in team. But overall, I like how they traded Anthony Simons. I was begging for them to trade Anthony Simons so that Scoot Henderson could thrive as the starting point guard. Shaedon Sharpe could thrive and could build off the season he just had with him being a 20-point scorer. Donovan Clingan would now get more opportunities with Aiden gone. Hanson Yang will probably sit most of this year. They still have Robert Williams, unfortunately. Or I don't know if I think he's still on the team. They still have Robert Williams. So he'll play backup minutes. Maybe they'll trade him. But overall, I like what they did here. Can't be too upset. Nuggets. Another S tier offseason. For them to acquire Cam Johnson, like we mentioned earlier, and then also bring in Bruce Brown and Jonas Valanciunas, who scared me for a second because it was looking like he was going to Greece. But we'll start off with Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is going to come in and play the exact same role that Michael Porter Jr. did, except he's a better playmaker. He's a marginally better defender. And he's cheaper. That's the biggest thing. He's cheaper. They get off the Michael Porter Jr. contract, and they don't really give up much besides something 7 years from now. And then they bring in Bruce Brown, who won a championship with his team a couple years back. He hasn't really played much since then because he's been battling injuries, but he fits well with Jokic, and that was the best year of his career, and he got paid off that year alone. So I like that signing. It brings much needed depth to this team. And then the most underrated move is the Jonas Valanciunas signing, because for the longest, Jokic has not had a reliable backup center that he could trust or that this team could trust while he's off the floor and just hold it down for 6 to 10 minutes while he rests. The team gets so much worse when he's off the court. And now that hole is filled. Now I won't have to see DeAndre Jordan play any NBA minutes finally at his old age. So I like that move. And then overall, it's just funny how they had to fire their GM and their championship winning GM and their championship winning coach in order to really make this happen, even though their championship winning coach was asking for veteran guys like this who could come in and have the playoff experience, have the playoff moments, and have been battle tested And that's exactly what they did this offseason. So shout out David Adelman. I expect this team to be one of the best in the West. Once again, I expect them to contend purely because they have the best player on the roster. Hopefully Jamal Murray comes back healthier. Cam Johnson, if he can stay healthy, that's a home run signing. I was really expecting them to get Trey Murphy, but they ended up getting him. Can't complain. Another great offseason. I'll give them S. They brought back all their guys, signed the big three to extensions. They drafted Thomas Sorber at 15. Can't really complain too much. They traded Dylan Jones because they didn't have enough room for him, basically. That's really about it. They re-signed AJ Milton and Jalen Williams as well. Jay Will. And then now they get Nikola Toba back, so they're really in this position to repeat or could try to repeat. Not much to say about the defending champions. The Grizzlies, I'm put them at B as well. They had a pretty decent draft. They brought in Ty Jerome and they brought back Santi Aldama and they gave Jaren Jackson Jr. his Supermax extension. Pretty simple stuff from them. Can't really think of any other moves they made. So yeah, nothing bad. I'll give them B. Just what they needed to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Dallas, A. They drafted Cooper Flagg, of course. They brought in D'Angelo Russell to hold it down until Kyrie comes back healthy. And you can't really ask them much more than that. Cooper Flagg alone would have gave them an A, to be honest. But them also bringing in D'Lo was nice. The Spurs, I'm going to give them I'm going to give them an A. I don't think they're up here. Actually, I'm going to put them at S, and I'm going to give the Thunder an A. Spurs had an amazing draft, bringing in Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant. They brought in Luke Cornett to run backup minutes. They just traded for Charlie. Excuse me. They just traded for Kelly Olynyk to have more floor spacing as a more floor spacing backup big when Luke Cornett cannot play in certain games. So I'm like, they've had a flawless offseason. They're going to get Vic back healthy. They're going to have. Did they bring back anybody? I don't think they re-signed anybody else. I can't really think of any of the moves. I just know they had a flawless draft, and then they had 2 flawless signings. So yeah, I think that's it. Well done from the Spurs. I don't know if they're going to necessarily contend like I've been seeing on some tweets and all on socials, but I really like it. And I like how they're taking it step by step and not just jumping into this. I do think they can make some noise into like the upper play-in late in 6 seed, but I don't know if I would coin them as contenders just yet. These are my 3 favorite off seasons, easily. Next, we have the Phoenix Suns, who I'm going to give an A. They handled the Kevin Durant trade perfectly. Mainly, I was a little worried because I thought they could have got a little bit more for Kevin Durant. But what they got was perfect. They brought in Mark Williams on draft day. They drafted Kamal Maliwaj. Both of those guys aren't necessarily going to be 34-minute centers, so I like how they can play. And when one is off, the other could come on. They drafted Kobe Brea, sniper out of Kentucky. I think he went to Kentucky. They also, they brought in another guy. Hold on, let me see. They brought in another guy. Oh, there we go. They also brought in Rasheer Fleming. That's who it was in the second round. I had Rasheer Fleming projected to go just outside the lottery. So great value picks in the second round with Kobe Bryant and him. And I think this team is in a good spot despite losing Kevin Durant. They shed a lot of money, I'm pretty sure. And I think they're still going to be able to compete in the West. I don't know if they're going to be like a playoff contender or not, but I like it. I'm not as disgusted as I was right after the Kevin Durant trade. Next, we have the LA Clippers. I'm going to put them in A tier. They brought in Brook Lopez. That right there is enough. And then they also brought in John Collins. Now, the reason the Brook Lopez signing is amazing, one, because they took him away from the Lakers. And two, when Zubac was off the court last season, the defense kind of fell off just a little bit because they didn't really have that backup center that could still protect the rim and do all the stuff that needed to be done. Now, he isn't as great of a rebounder as Zubac is, but he's just as good as a rim protector, if not better. So I like that for him coming off the bench. And then John Collins, who pretty much averaged 20 points last year in Utah, they got, and I don't think they gave up too much. They traded Norman Powell to the Heat for him. And that's because they were reluctant to give him his extension. And John Collins is a better fit. It looks to me that he found his jump shot in Utah. And it's a great, exceptional lob threat next to James Harden, who is one of the better lob throwers in the league. So, great offseason for them. I'm going to add a tier. Hold on. I'm doing this wrong. F. I'm going to add a tier below because this one is only reserved for one team and one team only. Incomplete. The Golden State Warriors. They haven't done anything, so I don't know what the direction is. They haven't traded or signed Jonathan Kuminga. They haven't traded for Nikola Vucevic, which they've been rumored to do. They just haven't done anything, but I expect them to do stuff. They haven't lost anything and haven't gained any. Well, they lost Kevon Looney. That's about it. But they haven't gained anything, so I'm a little concerned, but I also expect them to at least make one move. Maybe Jimmy Butler can be considered their offseason at the deadline. I don't know, but I'm going to give them incomplete. The Pistons lost out on Malik Beasley due to off the court concerns, but I think they re-upped with him pretty nicely. It sucks losing Dennis Schroeder, but they secured Jaden Ivey, and they brought in Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. Duncan Robinson to be the literal Malik Beasley replacement, and then Karis LeVert to come off the bench and light it up. Can't really complain too much. I would like to see them get a backup creator like Dennis Schroeder, so maybe this could be a Russell Westbrook team. Who knows? But all in all, I give them B. The Kings, I'm giving them a C. They still haven't gotten, I don't think they've re-signed Malik Monk just yet. But the only reason I'm giving them a C is because they had a really good draft, bringing in Maxime Reynal and Nick Clifford. But outside of the draft, it's been really confusing. They overpaid Dennis Schroeder in my eyes just a little bit. I think $15 million is a kind of crazy. They haven't traded none of the guys that I feel need to be traded. They haven't traded DeMar DeRozan. They haven't traded Domantas Sabonis, and maybe that's because the market isn't really there. But overall, they're just a confusing team. But they made two good draft picks, so I guess it balances it out. I really don't know the direction of this team just by looking at it. So we'll just have to see. The Cavs get an A from me. Bringing in Lonzo Ball was great. Re-signing Sam Merrill was great. And then drafting Tyrese Proctor, great. 3 great moves. Really simple. They are the favorites in the East, in my opinion. Moving on to the Celtics. For what they need to do, I'll give them a B. Purely because they had to shed a lot of money to get under the second apron. It was unfortunate they had to lose out on Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday at once, and then Luke Cornett. They didn't really do a good job of replacing any of the centers, and it looks like they're also going to lose out on Al Horford. So actually, I'm going to drop this down to a C. The roster's still good enough to compete, but you lost on way too much, and then you drafted a project player in Hugo Gonzalez, who I expect to stay overseas for this first season. But it was just an unfortunate offseason. They were really pigeonholed with all the amount of money they had. So I can't really give them too high. I also can't give them too low due to circumstances. The Sixers, they get a D. Just because they lowballed the hell out of Gershon Yabusele apparently. But they drafted VJ Edgecombe, so I give them a B. He's going to fit in perfectly next to everybody. And they have a good young core just in case they want to blow it up. So I give them a B. I almost forgot they drafted VJ. Not much to be said. If Embiid's healthy, this team can make a conference finals run. I can't talk. A conference finals run. Hopefully. Not really. I don't like this team. But other than that, if Embiid isn't healthy and they decide to blow this core up the next season, they got a really good young core to build around in Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, and VJ Edgecombe. So they're in a good position. The Hornets, A, offseason. They had an amazing draft. They brought in Liam McNeely, Con Knipple, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. They brought back Trey Mann. They signed somebody that made me really realize they're trying to make a playoff or play-in push. I can't think of who it was. But this team is in a really good spot. I really like their offseason, and I think they had maybe the best draft out of anyone. I think that's about it on this team. Hopefully they can stay healthy. And them trading away Mark Williams and getting something in return was nice. Not to mention them drafting Kalkbrenner as an immediate replacement who can play next to him and be an amazing defender as he was in college, being Big East Defensive Player of the Year 2 or 3 years, I'm pretty sure. And then he's also a good lob threat. Almost A+ off season, but I'm gonna give it an A. Wizards, I'm gonna also give it A. It's really exciting seeing this Wizards team because they feel like they're involved in every single trade. But they drafted Trey Johnson, they traded for Cam Whitmore, they traded for CJ McCollum. They still have Chris Middleton, they still have Marcus Smart. I feel like they drafted somebody else. Overall, this is a really young and exciting team. And in 2 years, if they are bad once again this year, and they get a top 3 pick next year, and they land like AJ DeBonsa or Cameron Boozer, Lord have mercy, this team is going to be scary. I also like Will Riley going to them because he's a good team where he can really just make mistakes and develop. The Wizards haven't made any mistakes in my opinion. Magic, I give them an A as well. They traded for Desmond Bane without really giving up too many valuable picks, in my opinion, even though they gave up 5. They drafted Jace Richardson. They drafted Noah Penda. Great offseason from them as well. I think they're going to be one of the other contenders in the East. I think there will be a top 4 team, if not top 3. And if they can get that jump from Paolo and Franz, another scary team in the East. Miami, it wasn't a bad offseason, but I expected more. I like the Kasparas Jakusonis fell to them because they really needed a point guard, in my opinion, a real on-ball creator, and I think that's what he can be. It sucked that they missed out on Walter Clayton Jr. Oh, and the Jazz brought him in. I forgot about that. It sucks that they missed out on Walter Clayton Jr. Unfortunately, they brought in Norman Powell. It's a really small backcourt with him and Tyler Hero, and I don't expect Norman to come off the bench for anyone after the season he just had. But I can't really say it was an awful offseason. So C feels just right. The Hawks are going to the S tier. They have primed themselves to be real contenders in the Eastern Conference, with them trading for Kristaps Porzingis, signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a pretty reasonable and honestly cheap deal to what I expected him to get. And then they also drafted Asa Newell at pick 23. Flawless offseason. I expect Trae Young to be a dark horse MVP candidate, and I also expect this team to finish top 3 to 4 in the Eastern Conference. Don't sleep. because now they're healthy. They really have that defensive identity with all the players that they brought in around Trae Young. Trae Young is a guy that gives a lot of effort on defense, and I like how he shifted his play style to not be so ball dominant and play off of everybody. So overall, I lied. This is my favorite three off seasons, with the Hawks being 1, Rockets being 2, Nuggets being 3, and then the Spurs now will fit into the 4th slot. And then the Pacers, I can't complain. We drafted the dude out of Marquette. I can't think of his name. Cam Jones, that's his name. We drafted him. And then another guy out of like D2 that I can't think of. Like, he was like really athletic and a really good defender. I can't think of his name, unfortunately, in the second round. Both of them. We traded for our pick back for next year. And what else? We lost Miles Turner, but we got Jay Huff back. We signed Jay Huff, who is basically budget Miles Turner if you look at advanced stats. And I think he'll be coming in and pretty much fill that gap. It does suck that we'll miss out on Tyrese Halliburton for the entirety of next season, but I am very excited to see Andrew Nembhard as the primary point guard going forward. I expect Benedict Mathurin to take another jump like he did this season, maybe being a 20-point per game scorer, because this season he was a 16-point per game scorer. Overall, only thing I can really complain about is us missing out on Miles Turner re-signing because his agent didn't want him to come back. Now, looking back at this, who do I want to bump up? They brought in Jordan Clarkson. I'm gonna give them an A. No, I'm not. But I'm gonna move them like the top of B because they brought in depth, and that's really what they needed. I'm actually gonna bump us down because the Miles Turner loss is very bad. Not hurts a lot. I can't say it's very bad though. The Celtics got Amari Williams, so maybe I give them a B. Yeah, I like this. Overall, if you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching. I got more coming on the way. I'm actually going to start doing NFL and college football content now that the college football game come out, and we are a month away from preseason in the NFL. Thank you all for watching, and I'm out.